So, you discovered StoryBrand and now you want to make a change to your website. Well, that's a great idea because if you implement StoryBrand on your website, you'll get more leads, which lead to more sales, which lead to more money in the bank, which leads to more freedom. And freedom is just the best. The problem with StoryBrand is you have these 7 elements. And how do you stuff all 7 into a website? After all, we're supposed to keep it clear and concise. That's a StoryBrand principle. In this video, I'll show you how I do it. My name is Mitch Metter. I'm a 6-year StoryBrand certified guide. I'm also the owner of Brand Nerd, a company that started as a side hustle doing copywriting and web design, but it's grown into an agency that will build a few dozen custom StoryBrand websites in 2024 alone. Frankly, there are a lot of ways to implement StoryBrand, and that's part of the magic. This video is not intended to be the last word on StoryBrand websites, but what it is a basic but powerful website layout that I think will work for a lot of businesses. It should work for home services, B2B, professional services, software, engineering, manufacturing, tech, medical, dentists, so basically any expertise business. But after all, that's what businesses are for, so we can pay an expert to do the thing we can't or don't want to do. First things first, grab your SB7, your StoryBrand framework. If you haven't done it yet or you don't have it handy, that's okay. Let's just quickly review what an SB7 is for those who are catching up. Your SB7 is the 7 elements of a StoryBrand framework. It actually walks through the hero's journey, and it starts with a character who has a problem. And that problem can be broken up into a couple different problems: internal, external, and philosophical. Now, these are all the same problem, but they're at different levels. Number 3, they meet a guide. 4, who gives them a plan. And 5, calls them to action. And 6, which results in success. And 7, helps them to avoid failure. So you have a character with a problem who meets a guide, who gives them a plan, then calls them to action, which results in success and helps them avoid failure. Now that you have your SB7, I want you to just forget about it for a second. I know this is blasphemy coming from a certified guide, but we'll get back to it shortly. Instead of thinking of your website in the 7 StoryBrand elements, I want you to think of it in 3 main sections. Those sections are the hero section, the part above the fold at the top of the page, the 3 Ps section, the section where we're actually going to lay out the argument for why somebody should work with you, and then the FOMO section. I hope you know what FOMO is, but we'll talk about it when we get there. Okay, now that you have this 3-part website framework, grab your SB7 again because we're going to use it to fill in the sections. First off, the hero section. This is your primary message and an introduction to your company. It's important to get this right and invite people into the story. It's probably the most important thing we'll cover in this video, except the part at the very end because, YouTube algorithm. If you've been around StoryBrand or my channel, you know that your website needs to pass the grunt test. In fact, all of your marketing needs to pass the grunt test. And the grunt test is 3 questions that you need to answer before anything else, because people don't buy products based on what is best. They buy it based on what they understand the best. So these are the 3 questions you need to answer. What is it? What are you offering? How does it make my life better? And how do I get it? So if you can answer those 3 questions really quick so that people understand fast, they're more likely to buy. And if you're new to this concept, it's called the grunt test because we want to make these answers so intuitive in the message and design that people could grunt it out just like a caveman. But that's not all. We also want to invite people into the story we're telling. And this is my secret sauce for the hero section. If you have a great philosophical statement, because some companies, like the philosophical statement might not be there. They might not have a philosophical angle, but if you have a great philosophical statement, use it in the hero section because it is a great way to invite people into a story. For example, if you have a CPA firm, filing taxes doesn't need to be difficult is a great philosophical statement. If you're a real estate agent, buying a home should be exciting, not stressful, is a great philosophical statement. And to use a classic example, just do it. When Nike uses that slogan, it ignites the human spirit and drives down deep on a philosophical level, like nothing can stop me. Just do it. If you can hit people on that deep level, you invite them into the story immediately. And a story-based design tip that we should also use in the hero section is don't fill up the entire screen with your hero section. A lot of designers are tempted to do that because it looks pretty, but if you can hint at the next section, you actually tease that and make it evident that there's more to the story. So use a philosophical statement, don't use up the whole page. And then under your philosophical statement, I want you to put a sentence or two that describes clearly and concisely exactly what your business does. Like a no-nonsense description. It doesn't need to be fluffy. You've already got the philosophical statement to kind of set the tone, just something that clearly describes what it does, and then a call to action button. And while we're at the top of the website, let's briefly discuss the navigation menu. First, make sure that the call to action is clear and obvious. This usually means making it a different color and putting it up in the right-hand corner because that's where your eye naturally goes to looking for the call to action. And next, keep your menu clean and simple. Stop putting every link under the sun in your menu. It just makes people click around without purpose. If you want a place to stuff links, put them in the footer. We call the footer the junk drawer, like that drawer in your kitchen that has various writing implements, hair clips, and a D battery that's been there since 1997. That's where the links should go. People know to scroll to the bottom when they're looking for things like your About Us page or Meet the Team or things that often aren't required to be at the top of the page. So, to summarize our hero section, 1, you want to pass the grunt test. 2, you want to start with a philosophical statement that invites them into the story and hits them right in their problem. And 3, a simple navigation menu and a clear call to action button. The second website section is the 3 Ps. This is where you want to lay out the case for working with you in a little bit more detail. The 3 Ps are promise, proof, and plan. Let's dig into each one a little bit deeper. The promise section in StoryBrand terms is where the character, want, and problem, and even success commingle. What is emphasized in this section honestly depends on the story and the character itself, and that's a bit of an advanced topic that I don't really have time to get into, but it won't hinder you from completing this section. A great way to do the promise section is to ask a series of questions. The key to these questions is that the answer should be yes to all of them, or most of them, for your ideal client. Getting people to agree with you makes them more agreeable to you. So you want to get them to start to say yes, and then hopefully that leads to a yes on the call to action. Here's an example. Do you struggle with writing website copy? Do you wish you could just press fast forward? Is this project going to make you a lot of money if done right? Well, Brand Nerd is a company that writes and develops websites for businesses who want to use the power of StoryBrand without the hassle of DIY. See what I did there? This, of course, is not the only way. You can just write a paragraph or two laying out the problem your character faces. But remember to stay in emotional and philosophical territory as much as possible. These deeper human feelings hit way harder than their external counterparts. On to the second P, the proof section. In StoryBrand terms, this is really the guide section. First, you want to introduce the empathetic guide. You demonstrate empathy by telling a little bit of your own journey, especially if it resonates with the character. When positioning yourself as the guide, think of it in the same way as a Hollywood movie. For example, in Star Wars, Luke wants to fight the Empire, but he needs a guide to show him how. Enter an experienced Jedi Knight, Obi-Wan Kenobi, who shows him a secret power that he has access to that ultimately he can use to defeat the evil Empire. In the same way, I want you to tell just enough of your own origin story to allow the customer to ID you as the guide. You don't want to tell too much because you don't want to take up too much real estate with your stuff. That makes you the hero, not the customer, and a little mystery goes a long way. The proof section should also feature stories of transformation. This is also known as testimonials and reviews, but I like stories of transformation because the best reviews have a story arc. I was experiencing this problem and I couldn't seem to find anyone to help. Then I met this expert and they made everything so much better. I highly recommend them. Do you see how that's better than just, they were great, 5 stars? I'm going to do a whole video on this soon and give away my review questionnaire template, so go ahead and subscribe so you get that when it comes out. Oh, and use video if possible. Video reviews are always better if done right. Nothing tops powerful stories of transformation. But the proof section can also be where you put logos, certifications, and awards that are appropriate to you. Sometimes these are required for your job, depending on what field you're in. And logos can be very helpful, especially if you have recognizable clients, or maybe you're a logo designer and you want to show off some of the logos, but that is the place to put them, here in the proof section. So to review the proof section: 1, introduce the guide; 2, include stories of transformation; and 3, when it's good and appropriate, use logos, certifications, and awards. All right, we've arrived at the third P, the plan. This is where you lay out how easy it is to work with you. It would be easy for me to just say, well, copy and paste this from your SB7 and move on to the next section, but I'm going to go a little bit deeper than that, because I've found that the plan is actually a place that people really struggle with StoryBrand. The reason they struggle is because it's really hard to get what you do down to 3 steps. People don't want to leave anything out or mislead people, but honestly, forget that. This is not a legal document, it's a sales pitch. So let me try to help you figure it out. You see, there are 2 types of plans that you can use, and people often try to put them together. There's the pre-purchase plan, and then there's the post-purchase plan. Pre-purchase is everything leading up to a sale. You want to make it easy for them to book a call by removing complexity and confusion. Here's an example. 1, book a call on a date that works. 2, tell us your challenges and goals. And 3, get a proposal within 24 hours. So this plan that I just gave starts with picking a date, it moves to the actual call itself, and then it moves to what you get in return, which is a proposal. This is really powerful. It shows how easy it is and removes obstacles from the actual pre-purchase process. Now let's talk about post-purchase. This is when you have a secret sauce, framework, or system that you want to highlight. The goal is to make you stand out as an expert in your field because you have this unique angle. An example of a post-purchase plan could be: 1, take our 6-part assessment; 2, get a custom program just for you; and 3, attend weekly check-ins for max results. So in this plan, they start with an assessment, then they get a custom program of some sort, and then they also have some sort of accountability, and that leads to better success. So they're going from the sale, which happened right before they take the assessment, to success, which is maximum results. If you're not sure whether to use pre-purchase or post-purchase, I suggest pre-purchase. It's usually easier for you to create and easier for customers to understand. That's because when the post-purchase plan comes into play, there's usually a lot more steps that you're trying to simplify down. It's also a lot more tempting to use jargon and words that people don't understand, and we want to avoid that at all costs. Whatever you do, don't mash both plans together, trying to go from call to action all the way to success. That just doesn't work. Something that could also be very helpful here in the plan section is to offer a guarantee. You know, like satisfaction guaranteed or your money back, or 3-year warranty on all services rendered. These little messages can help alleviate some of the obstacles people have around trusting someone on the internet. But obviously, if you say it, you better back it up. To summarize the plan: 1, use a 3-step plan, and 2, consider making a guarantee or similar claim. Okay, so we're done with the hero, we're done with the P's, now on to FOMO. The last section is FOMO. You know what FOMO is, right? FOMO is an acronym that stands for fear of missing out. In StoryBrand terms, this is where you want to put failure and your transitional call to action. Failure in StoryBrand terms is simply the cost of not hiring you. Because if there isn't a cost for not hiring you, then there's not a reason to hire you. So this is typically just a short message, twisting the knife a little bit and making the case that they can't afford not to hire you. So this is typically a short message, twisting the knife a little bit and making the case that they can't afford not to hire you. And lastly, you want a transitional call to action or lead magnet. The reality is that not everyone who goes to your website will be ready to buy immediately. But what if they leave and never come back? This is where you want to make an irresistible offer in exchange for a way to stay in touch. I'm working on another video about lead generators and lead generators that actually work, and you should probably subscribe so you don't miss it. Speaking of lead generators, I created a printer-friendly one-page website wireframe that illustrates everything we just talked about in this video. You can grab your copy at thebrandnerd.com/wireframe2024. That concludes the StoryBrand website video. If you enjoyed this video or have any questions, please let me know in the comment section. Until next time, stay curious.